Hare Krishna. With respect to body and mind, there is no difference between human being and animals. But with respect to intellect, there is the difference between human beings and the animals. Because animals are not bestowed with the intellect, but humans are. But it is very unfortunate that despite bestowed by this intellect, majority of the human beings are taking decision based on the likes and dislikes. That is, they are being ruled by the minds. Duryodhan was one of the Kauravas who takes his decision based on likes and dislikes because he could not develop his intellect to take decision on the basis of right and wrong. The difference between Arjun and Duryodhan was that Arjun took decision based on the basis of what is right and wrong. That is, he took decision by applying his intellect. But Duryodhan, because he had not developed his intellect to that extent, he was taking decision by mind, and mind is just it's a childlike. So mind advise one to take decision based on the basis of likes and dislikes. In these three verses of chapter number 1, we will discuss what Duryodhan did in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. As we know in the second verse that Duryodhan approached Guru Drona, and he approached to Guru Drona as he being the king of Hastinapur, although the king of Hastinapur was his father and not the Duryodhan. He approached to Guru Drona as he was a king because of his arrogance. Also, when he saw the armies of the Pandavas in the battlefield, he was shocked to see the great warriors were assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra who were ready to fight from the side of Pandavas against the Kauravas. That is, they were ready to fight against unrighteousness to establish the righteousness. In fact, one of the quality of our mind is that whenever we are engaged in doing something wrong, something unrighteousness, something adharmic activities, then our mind becomes very fragile, it becomes very weak, and our both mental and physical energy lost to a great extent. And whenever we are fighting for the cause of righteousness, to establish the righteousness, performing activities that is okay with respect to the dharma or the law of the land, then our mind becomes strong. Our strength with respect to mental and physical becomes strong. So what happened when Duryodhan inspected the army of the Pandavas, then because of the great warriors assembled in the favor of Pandavas, Duryodhan was very anxious and became fearful that such a great king will fight against us, and they are in the support of the Pandavas. So he became fearful. Also, he became doubtful about the result of the war, that might be this war could be owned by the Pandavas. So he was fearful to such an extent that after approaching Guru Drona, he started enumerating all the names of the kings that were assembled in the battlefield from the side of Pandavas. And all the names of those kings who were fighting from the side of Pandavas are mentioned on these three verses from verse number 4, 5, and 6. That is from 4 to 6 of the chapter number 1. Let us chant these verses. Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhima Arjuna Sama Yudhe Yudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha Drishtaketu Shate Kitanaha Kashirajascha Viryavan Purojit Kunti Bhojascha Saibascha Narapungavaha Yudhyamanyuscha Vikranta Uttamojascha Viryavan Draupadescha Sarvaiva Maharatha. That is all the great warriors of the kingdoms near to Hastinapur were fighting in favor of Pandavas, were fighting to establish righteousness against unrighteousness. We will take up what are the learning outcomes, and this is mentioned that in these verses from 4 to 6 of chapter number 1 of Bhagavad Gita, Duryodhana has enumerated the names of all the kings who gathered in the side of Pandavas to fight against Kauravas. He was surprised to see the kings who were there in the battlefield to fight against Kauravas. He thought how the Pandavas managed to gather all the powerful warriors in his side. He valued their strength in reference of Arjun and Bheem and said to Guru Drona that all the other warriors in the side of Pandavas equally in strength to that of Arjun and Bheem. Because Duryodhana has learned the archery and all the weapons, how to fight along with the Pandavas. So he was aware about the strength of Bhim and Arjun. So on that basis, he has valued the strength of other kings who were there in the battlefield from the side of Pandavas and informed the Guru Drona. In fact, Dronacharya was, Duryodhana was annexed in the battlefield after knowing the strength of the Pandavas' army, and because of fear, he started enumerating the names of the kings to Drona. And as I mentioned, that is the learning outcomes. That is, whenever we are engaged in doing something against the law, against the dharma, unrighteousness, then our mind becomes fragile, it becomes weak, and we lose the strength. This strength may be the physical and the mentally, and majority of the time it is both mental and physical. However, mind becomes more powerful and strong when we plan to fight for the cause of righteousness and dharma. Whenever we are planning or engaged in some activities that is with the that is not against the law of the land, that is in accordance with the law of the land, that is dharma, that is righteousness, then the energy, the power, the strength of working the activity becomes more productive. So we must not engage in any kind of unrighteousness activities, and we must do everything that is dharmic, that is righteousness. And at last we conclude this verses by the saying of one of the scholars, that was Solomon. He said, if you want peace in world, then always fight for justice. Thank you. Hare Krishna.